Here we are on yet another episode of Legends Look Back. Excited to have our fans and friends and our community here with us live in the chat. If you are not here with us, hey, we do the show every Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. over on youtube.com/Youtini. And I've got a really big announcement to make and on a personal level here. I'm really excited to show off. We always, like to show off our newest pieces in our collections because we're hoarders. I mean, we're collectors over here at Legends Look Back. But I've got a really special book, not because of the book itself, but because of what it represents to me as a collector. Tonight, I'm joined by the fake Meg and Freddie. And by that, I mean, they're both out this week, but we've got some other friends here with us helping keep the show going. So we've got both Cheryl and Jacob. Welcome, guys. How's it going?
Hello, good. How are you?
Not too bad.
Great. I wanted to see if you guys know what this book is. You recognize this? You ever seen it before?
No.
I know the series. I haven't
I'll bring
seen
it up
that
a little
specific
closer.
book though.
Yeah, this is Fate of the Jedi Apocalypse. This is the very last title in the Fate of the Jedi series. Published, who is this? 2013, so right at the end, 2012. The paperback was 2013, right at the end of Legends publishing. Before the big bomb was dropped in in April of 2014. This is in fact one of the very last Legends books to be published in paperback without a Legends banner. This has been the white whale of my collection for years. We're talking since this was first released. Finally found it this past week, and you're going to watch me here live on the show. I take it the fact that neither of you recognize the cover. I'm going to guess neither of you have read it.
No.
Definitely not.
Okay, it's fine. Freddie hasn't even read these yet. So, I mean, like, to get to these chronologically in the world of, if you're trying to read everything in Legends, I mean, it'll take you years to get to this bad boy.
Right.
You don't have to read chronologically. This is a real masterpiece of a book for the fact that it's over 500 pages long. It is the culmination of a 9-book series that, of course, came after The Legacy of the Force, which was a 9-book series, which came after Fate of the Jedi, or what is it called? New Jedi Order, which is a 19-book series. So in order to get to this, like, that's a lot of Legends, all right? But you're going to watch me live on the show. I'm going to slot this in to my bookshelves right behind me, and this will be the last Legends paperback that I needed in order to complete my Legends paperback collection. It's pretty big deal, isn't it? Thank you. I mean, when I put it on the shelf the other day after it arrived, there were no flashy lights or confetti. There was no celebratory music that happened. So we're going to do it again. We're going to have a do-over, and we're going to have the community right here with me, excited about completing my Legends paperback collection. Now, I will say I still have one, Death Troopers, that I have with the Legends banner that I need to replace with one without the Legends banner. But then besides that, there's 3 to 5, I'm not exactly sure on the number, of Legends paperbacks that were never published without a Legends banner, which is one of those things that keeps me up at night. Do you guys care about that at all?
No, not in the slightest.
Resounding no from Cheryl.
Yeah, it's like I'm not the most hardcore Legends person, but if I were to start collecting, I think I would prefer without the Legends banner when possible. So, like, I understand it, especially if you're trying to have this complete collection.
That's the deal. It's not like I have a problem with the Legends banner. I think it looks nice on some books. I've got, my copy of Lost Tribe of the Sith, the collected stories. There is no version of it without the Legends banner. I would rather have it with the Legends banner than not have it at all. It's a great book. Love it. It's the mass market paperback, or the trade paperback. It's a little bigger.
Yeah.
The new size they're doing. So readable. Love it. But this book has been so hard to get without the Legends banner because, for the most part, it's been published with the Legends banner. It was one of the very last ones, if not the last one. I'm not totally sure on that. Have to get Trevor or one of our other Legends experts to weigh in on all of that info. This series, I was finally getting to it right about the time it was finishing. I caught up on my several years journey of reading New Jedi Order, reading Legacy of the Force. Got to this shortly after it was published. I owned the rest of the series in paperback. This one was not out yet in paperback. So I bought that $28 hardcover. I bit the bullet. I was like, I got to know what happens. Got to read the series. And then I just said to my wife, standing in the bookstore, I'll buy it as a paperback sooner or later. It won't be that hard to find. Famous last words. I had no idea that would have been in 2013. What is this? 8 years later, I'd still be looking for this sucker. I paid way more than I wanted to for it. Still, like not even $11. But most of my Legends books I bought for $2 to $3 because I'm redneck like that. I like to buy things at thrift stores. And here we are. It's going to go on the shelf. The last Legends book I needed for my Legends paperback collection. So you're producing for us this week, Jacob. You got a drum roll sound effect?
I do not.
All right.
Do I
make
have
one with make one with your mouth. Ready? Here we go.
Just like banging
after Ascension. In the cover.
Oh, he's trying. And ta-da!
Everybody can see my thighs. Scoot up to the microphone and let's start the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Legends Lookback. We're proudly, let's try this again. We're proudly a part of the Youtini podcast network. This is what happens when my other co-hosts don't show up for the show. I say crazy things and words that are not actually the right words. This is a Star Wars books podcast for people whose number one life goal is to get slimed with that neon green slime that they use on Nickelodeon in the 90s and for it to happen on live TV.
Ew.
But one of those box TVs that you have to turn on with your fingers instead of with a remote, where we talk about all things Legends. We're celebrating our rich EU history as well as diving into lesser-known Star Wars classics. I'm your host, Jared Mays, and today there's no Freddy, there's no Meg, but I'm not here all alone. Thankfully, that would be awkward, wouldn't it? If I was just sitting in here talking about Legends books, that would be like any other night that's not a Thursday night. I just sit in here and rant about Legends books. My wife is like, I don't care. But tonight, I'm not alone. In fact, joining me on this journey is our friend from the Great White North, Cheryl Bell. We didn't scare her off last week. You came back.
I did, but I don't want to be slimed.
You don't want to be slimed?
No.
I mean, like, what if you got paid to do it?
I have to get paid a lot of money.
I would do it for free. I mean, it kind of sounds fun. As long as, like, I had, good access to a shower afterward. What about you, Jacob? What's your opinion on Nickelodeon slime?
I feel like it was kind of being phased out by the time I was a kid, and I don't know if, like Cheryl, I'm not sure if any normal adult would want to get slimed, in this day and age.
What are you saying, Jacob?
Saying not much, insinuating maybe a little bit of something, but yeah, I'll try anything once within reason.
Yeah, this conversation came up on a stream that I was watching the other day, and somebody who shares my 90s retro aesthetic, a streamer was talking about how slime's made a comeback, and some people were confirming, like Nickelodeon, they've tried to bring it back. I don't know.
Well,
I haven't watched it in years.
It was in that NFL game. Did you watch that? There's like the Thursday night.
No.
There's like a Thursday night football game last season where they had a simultaneous broadcast on Nickelodeon to try and draw in young viewers. And they had like videographic like slime cannons that come out of the corners of the pylons and shoot slime in the air during touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm gonna Google that for sure. That's awesome.
It was a sight to behold. Mitchell Trubisky, famous not great quarterback of the Chicago Bears, got the MVP award. Don't ask me what that stands for. Nickelodeon Valuable Player. I'm not sure.
That is a terrible, terrible title. Oh my goodness.
But it happened.
We got to get in touch with the NFL and get us some of that slime. If Nickelodeon doesn't work out, the NFL will totally donate us their leftover slime. Well, Jacob, this is your first appearance on the show. You've been a regular listener, regular fan, like regular friend with us in the chat. And I've got to admit, this is going to be your first among many. I can feel it. Or shall we say, I have foreseen it. How was that in terms of impressions? At least like a 6 out of 10?
Well, I'll give it that. I felt bad that I made you on like super short notice do the Cosmic Force because I was out of town. So when the chance arose to help fill Meg's mighty shoes, I figured I might as well take that and pay you back for it.
No, I've been loving it. I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. So since you brought it up, tell us a little bit about the Cosmic Force. So what do you guys have going on over there on Wednesday nights?
Yeah, so it's our Youtini's newest live show, and we're doing a bunch of comic coverage for Star Wars. So this past week, or I guess just yesterday now, we talked about characters, how they compared with comic books and like their movie and book counterparts. And then next week we're actually stealing a Legends Lookback classic.
What?
I watched episode, I think it was episode 43 that you did with Jose, where
I don't have all the numbers
yeah,
coordinated in my
you
mind with the
basically
episodes.
you and Freddie built him a custom reading list based on his preferences. And I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? I'm gonna steal that. So Cosmic Force is doing that with a special guest next week. So yeah,
That's
get
cool.
excited. Yeah,
I
it was
love
like
that.
that was a lot of fun, and got to expose people to some good series, some good books outside of like the Foundational 5 and everything like that. So hopefully
Well,
that
I
goes
hope you're
well.
exposing them to Dark Empire, Dark Empire 2,
Wait.
and Empire's End. Those would all be good choices.
Well, I made the ground rule that all of our Foundational 5 books are off limits, so we cannot do Dark Empire 1. And I
Okay.
don't think I can in good conscience recommend Dark Empire 2 to a new
It's
comic book
crazy.
reader. But yeah, we'll see.
Why not? You got the Galaxy Gun. You
That's
got Rafe and Jim, who speak Pigeon Basic, and then Luke falls in love with one of his students, as Legends Luke is rife to do. You've got what else? You have Force Sensitive Tree. Lots of
Got-
good Force Sensitive trees in Legends.
You got a steampunk bowling ball Jedi that
That's
shoots
right.
lightning out of his arm.
Man, the Falcon gets retrofitted with steampunk technology. Man, I love that thing so much. I need to get like a big blown up poster of it just to put across my room. My wife's a muralist. Maybe she'll paint like a full wall of the Lightning Gun Millennium Falcon. That's a good idea. Hopefully I remember this in order to ask her tomorrow. We're going away for our anniversary. That's what I'll pitch to her on our 3-hour drive for our anniversary. All right, I got an idea for you. I need another mural. Well, I'm so excited about what you guys have going on over there on that show. It has become my very favorite Wednesday night tradition. I rush people out of the church building from my Wednesday night class and turn it on in the car on the drive home. Just absolutely love what you guys have going on over there. Glad that you're on the show. Now, this week, of course, is our second part of our coverage on the seminal Legends classic, Outbound Flight. Of course, this being 2021 is the 30th anniversary of not only the Thrawn trilogy, Timothy Zahn writing Star Wars, but most importantly, of Grand Admiral Thrawn himself. And so in this book, it's before he's a Grand Admiral. He's just, what is he? He's not an admiral. He's something. Captain? Is he just a captain?
I think he's
Captain Thrawn?
yeah, maybe like senior captain.
We need like a cereal.
Commander Thrawn.
Commander?
Oh,
Yeah.
commander.
I definitely don't have the Wook article pulled up because I don't remember much of this book.
We need to get Jose to make us like a cereal box of Captain Crunch, and then to just like paint his skin blue and his eyes red. Captain
Senior
Thrawn.
Captain Thrawn.
Captain Mithron Dotes. I'm working on it. We're workshopping the title. But of course, this has on reread become, I think, one of my top 10 Legends novels. I need to revisit my list. Absolutely loved it. Can't wait for us to get into some of the more detailed points about this book and the overarching questions. Last week, we talked about the characters. You got Thrawn, you got the first appearance of Aralani, you've got Obi-Wan and Anakin, you've got Joris Sabayoth, the OG Sabayoth, who, spoiler alert, is even more of a jerk than his clone counterpart. Some tremendous characters in this book, both from the prequel trilogy as well as the Timothy Zahn's larger empire of character building, some of which have even made their transition over into canon. This book, of course, is even referenced in canon. We're going to talk a little bit about its connections to greater good. So much goodness coming up your way tonight. But before we do, we've got to talk about our recent acquisitions, because I've got two, honestly, very special books to show off. I can't wait. Two very storied Legends Lookback books at this point. But first, Cheryl, what do you have for us? First and foremost, you got a shirt on that looks very, very Thrawny. What is that over there?
I've got the Youtini Thrawn. Whoops. Let's turn the other way.
Yeah, that gets me every time, the mirror image. That's so cool.
The shirt
Looks
designed
great.
by our own Jose.
I think I've added that thing to my cart like 20 times and haven't pulled the trigger. You can't buy all the Star Wars things you want to buy.
No, I had it because it was a part of my perk as a
Oh, cool.
Jedi
Yeah.
High Council member
Yeah,
for a while.
it flex
so.
that Jedi High Council status. There you go. Excellent. All right, what about Star Wars books and
Yeah,
merchandise?
so even though I'm not going to keep it, and I'll tell you why in a sec.
Oh no.
My
Signed copy.
signed copy.
I like that sticker on there.
Right?
Your first of many
So.
signed copies.
Yeah, so where is the
I've
page?
got Zahn's autograph
Oh, there
behind
it
me on
is.
the shelves, but not in a book, weirdly enough. Yep, checks out. Looks like the autograph I've got.
Yep. So the reason why I'm not keeping this one is because after this one was announced, they came out with that Goldsboro one
Oh,
with
yeah,
the sprayed red edges.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely ordered that one.
Did you really? I almost did.
So that one's in the mail right now. It's going to take a while to get to me because it's coming from the UK and I'm in Canada.
Yeah.
So this one I'm probably just going to send to Adam because he collects every single canon Star Wars book that comes out.
Cool. Nice. Here's the deal with the Goldsboro. Okay, so if people don't know what she's talking about, I think she did a good job describing it. With Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising. Man, why does it have such a long stinking title? It has blue pages, and then people were like, "Okay, this one's got a red cover. It's going to have red pages." And then on Twitter, they were like, "Well, not so fast. Like that's actually kind of a complicated publishing detail to work out, and it's with the printer, and they weren't able to pull it off in the U.S., but Goldsboro in the UK did." And the dedicated fans like Cheryl have gone out of their way. They said, forget about oceans. Just yeet it over the ocean over to me, and I'm going to get it on my shelves. Now, here's the reason why I didn't get the Goldsboro edition. First of all, I'm going to try to get the out of print edition. That's
me too. Yeah.
Same.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and I need it.
My wife has started to catch on to the fact that I've been buying multiple copies of Star Wars books for collectible purposes. And she's like, we're going to have to narrow some of that down. If you've read the book and you have a copy, let's not buy 3. And I'm like, that's true. But I did buy 2 different sets of the original Thrawn trilogy this past week for different reasons. I wanted to have a loaner version. You got to have, those are like very loanable books. And I don't want, my books are important to me. I don't want to have, as has happened with my copy of Victor Prime, I don't want my neighbor to have it for a year. So I've got loaner versions now. There's a good reason. All right.
I have readable versions. I don't read my signed copies. I have another copy of it over there. That's the non-signed copy that I use for actual reading.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're on the same wavelength here. Here's why I didn't get the Goldsboro, though. Those red pages are not visible from the shelf if your spines face outward.
Correct.
So nobody will ever know.
But I will know.
I know. Now, this is me trying to convince myself, Cheryl. You're the devil on my shoulder in this scenario.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I got the blue pages on Chaos Rising. Actually, accidentally bought 2 of those. So that's part of the problem that we're dealing with. Long story short, congratulations. I'm very jealous. How about you, Jacob?
Yeah, so, I also I got in on the Goldsboro, but mine also is still coming from the UK. But I have a few acquisitions for this week. First, it came like more than a week ago, but I had to represent something Legends on this show.
Yeah,
so
that's
of
right.
Course,
there it is.
I joined the Insider Fiction collection.
Gorgeous. Look at the shine on that thing. Man, excellent.
This is wonderful. There was, I don't know if you guys remember, there's a data leak with Equifax a couple years ago. And there's a class action lawsuit in my state, so I got an Amazon gift card for which, of course, I bought Star Wars books with. Oh, that was part of that.
Oh, cool. Good.
Yeah. Then I got to represent some comics. I showed this on the show last night, but I got the Will Sliney variant for the War of the Bounty Hunters Alpha. I really like that one.
I'm trying not to buy any variants for that.
This one was a cheaper one, so I didn't feel as bad. And then this one is a big flex for my canon fans.
Ooh. Sorry, that was a gut
Look at that
reaction.
grin. Look at that genuine grin on his face. He's so happy.
Yeah.
The back of it is gorgeous, man. Look at that.
It looks great. Yeah, I didn't think I would pick that up for a while, but I found a decent deal on it, and I just I want to get all the canon hardcovers eventually, and I just figured if I found a great deal on it, I might as well get that one out of the way. It's like I got that. I have The Last Jedi, so I don't really have Heir to the Jedi and Lords of the Sith and Tarkin are the other hard ones I have left. But
yeah, that is cool. My list is similar. I don't have A New Dawn. I do have Heir to the Jedi because it's a very important book around here at Legends Lookback. I mean, it's Meg's not here tonight to defend herself, so I'll just say this much. It might be one of her favorite books. I can't remember if it's in the top 5 or top 10. It's on there somewhere. It's notorious because it was supposed to be a part of a Legends trilogy. And then, for better or for worse, depending on your judgment of the book, I won't say here, it ended up on the canon side of things. Barely missed the cutoff there. Now I've thought about show up the back of that book again for a second here, Jacob. I love the back cover. That is gorgeous. I am contemplating, I'm either going to get the regular Rebel Alliance logo or the Rebels version, that version of the Starbird.
The Sabine Starbird one, yeah.
I'm either going to get one of the two as a tattoo on my shoulder. And I've been waffling for 2 or 3 years on which version I want. But the Starbird, man, that looks great on that back cover. I'll just get A New Dawn tattooed onto my shoulder. I'll get the front cover on the left shoulder.
Book jacket quote.
And then whenever I meet John Jackson Miller at a convention or something, I'll just have him sign right in between. John Jackson Miller. Surely he'll do it. Anyway, I've got a couple things to show off. I also finally got my copy of the Star Wars Insider Fiction Collection Volume 1, which we will go ahead and say I was wrong. It does exist. I was skeptical. I was getting nervous with all the delays, but it's here and I love it. And I'm taking it with me on my road trip tomorrow. And I just want to show off some of the art in here. All right. Look at this glorious, glorious image of Dash Rendar in all of his Legends glory. I mean, have you ever seen a more beautiful piece of art in your entire life? If your answer is yes, you're wrong. You're wrong.
It reminds me of like an action hero from like a Arnold Schwarzenegger action flick.
Well, but what's fun is he's in on the joke. I just read Shadow Games, I think is the name of the book. It was one of the last Legends books. It's a Dash Rendar prequel to Shadows of the Empire. It's just a fun, goofy adventure. And he and Han have like these verbal sparring matches all through the book about how he's a wannabe Han Solo. And like, he's in on the joke. It's part of his character's lore. It's so breaking the fourth wall.
But does he yell, "Get to the chopper"?
I'll have to read it with that accent. I'll reread the book. That's excellent. Cheryl, you could do the audiobook. I don't think I've ever heard a Canadian do such a good Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I'm a huge Arnie fan, but I can just quote Predator quotes. That's it.
That's so great. Oh my goodness. We'll do a crossover event one of these days, Star Wars and Predator podcast. That'll be excellent. All right, I've got one more thing to show off, and that is I got yet another copy of Heart of the Jedi, the Legends book that never existed but now does, and notoriously was the number 3 bestseller on Amazon's sci-fi adventures list one day of the week last week. Not for the whole week. It was just on Wednesday, and had actually been outselling, at least on that particular day, Greater Good, which is insane. It since has been removed from Amazon, as I predicted last week. There was a Death Star coming up on the horizon. Which Death Star? I'd like to think the third one from the Jedi Academy trilogy. That's the one that blew up Heart of the Jedi. It's no longer on Amazon. Have you guys seen the prices for this going on eBay?
That was going to be my next question. I was like, now how much did you spend on that?
Over $200 was one of the ones I saw.
Yeah, let me just go ahead and say here, if you got a copy in order to try to sell it on the aftermarket, take it down. All right. And spend some money toward a charity. All right. That's just an egregious way to treat this book. If you're buying it for collectible purposes, I get it. That's why I got it. But I bought the nonprofit version. No profit went to the person who just posted the manuscript on Amazon for this to just be collectible for Legends fans. Kenneth C. Flint isn't seeing any of the money on those eBay resellings. It's undercutting an author whose career was ruined, first and foremost, by this book. It's also, it's undercutting the publisher, who's not getting any money on this either. And that's a whole debatable thing. It's not just unethical, I think, to go and resell these for $200 or $300. I would say borderline illegal. Jacob, you're a law guy.
Hold on now. I will be a law guy, hopefully, knock on wood, in 3 years. So
Law guy, as
call
in
me
like
then.
law guy, as in like you know more laws than me.
I don't know about that. That's actually, we'll see.
Okay. Well, you've heard my sermon. If you get a copy of this, put it on your bookshelf, loan it to a friend, read it, for crying out loud. Read it. Luke jousts with a Tusken Raider on the back of a bantha. It's amazing. But I went ahead. I already had a copy, but I got this one just for the spine. Look how well formatted that spine is. And that's going to go great on my Legends paperback shelves. It fits in so nicely right over here. All right, I'm not going to do it right here on the show because I want to get it just right. I don't want to bend the cover because these things have become collectible at this point. But what some great acquisitions we've got here. Do you guys over in the chat have any that you want to tell us about? Would love to hear what your most recent Star Wars books are that you have picked up. But without further ado, we are going to talk about Outbound Flight. We're not going to go into as much detail on the backstory of this book. Of course, it was first slated for release in 2005, was delayed until 2006. Of course, being Timothy Zahn's first foray into the prequel era, which was paved, the way for which was paved by his writing of Survivor's Quest, which is in that the post Return of the Jedi era in Legends. Of course, Cheryl got the tip from our buddies Mike and Skooma Joe. You might want to read Outbound Fight after you have read Survivor's Quest. We'll talk about that relationship a little bit tonight. That's in 22 ABY. This is in 27 BBY. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it doesn't matter. They're 50 years apart or something like that. This, of course, is prequel era, 5 years after the Battle of Naboo. And we, of course, last week talked about the plot. If you want a full summary of that, go back and listen to last week's episode. But for tonight, we're going to talk about the overarching questions. First and foremost, one of the more difficult points to comprehend. I, in fact, had to ask Cheryl ahead of time before we went live with this episode. Hey, help me out here. How exactly did Thrawn defeat the Vagari? Because, all right, I'm going to show my redneck brain here for a second. I get a little confused with Timothy Zahn's plots, especially some of the space battles. If I'm listening to an audiobook in particular, I'm absolutely hopeless. This one mostly makes sense to me, but I want Cheryl to help us figure it out. How exactly, in your opinion, does Thrawn defeat the Vagari, Cheryl?
Yeah, this one had a lot of moving parts. I kind of like to picture it like how a chess player has to adjust his strategy after every move his opponent makes. And
Are you
how
saying
he has
chiss
to
or chess? Chess.
Chess
I'm kidding.
player. Sorry. I get it. And how he has to like utilize every piece on the board in order to win.
Yeah.
Sort of.
The ending of this definitely feels like there's a lot of moving chess pieces on the board. So help us remember who all are the moving chess pieces. You got Droidicas.
Yeah. So he uses a lure in the case of the Vagari to try to like skirt around the preemptive strike rule with the Chiss.
Sure.
He utilizes Cardass in understanding his convictions, knowing like kind of like what actions he would take. And to your point, he uses the resources of Doriana and the Separatist droid army after he defeats them. And he incapacitates Outbound Flight as a threat, though I would say that the ultimate fate of Outbound Flight was probably not what he fully envisioned.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I think the only player that Thrawn underestimated in this case was the Jedi, because even though it was like he pre-programmed the Separatist ships and droidicas, and that brought his ultimate victory, Doriana had to hit the execute button at the end because Thrawn was being choked by Sabayoth.
Yeah. He didn't anticipate that the Jedi would be cruel. In that way, way to go, Sabayoth. One of the only people capable of defeating Thrawn. Almost. Nice try. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it felt more like an ensemble to achieve his victory as opposed to some of the other finales we've seen.
Yeah, I want to talk about that, how this compares to some of the other big Zahn endings. I did want to plug, however, I posted a little clip on our Legends Lookback Discord channel this past week it's one of those things where as soon as we close out the show on Thursday nights, I hop over to YouTube and start watching dumb stuff to try to calm down because I get so hyped for these episodes of Legends Look Back, trying to bring that energy to the show. What's up? You better appreciate it because it keeps me up till 1 a.m. every Thursday. And but amazingly, these glowing rocks that we use in order to help us think and consume media, our computers, they're always listening. And this sucker, are they always listening? I'm convinced they are, because as soon as we ended the show, I got a YouTube recommendation from Star Wars Explained, and it was about comparing Zahn's Thrawn with Filoni's Thrawn, right? Thrawn's appearance in Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this on the show last week. How do you think, somebody asked in the chat, how do you think Thrawn was handled in Rebels compared to the books?
Mm-hmm.
And Star Wars Explained a few years ago, right after he was introduced in Rebels, they did an interview with Timothy Zahn, very brief, 5 minutes or so. And they asked him about it. And he made a great point that I want to bring up here. Zahn says that, yes, Thrawn is a critical thinker. He's a military genius. He's able to anticipate people's moves because he learns their culture. He does his homework. He's always one step ahead, 2-3 steps ahead on the chessboard. However, the only way to defeat Thrawn is with someone he cannot predict, something unexpected, someone he can't get ahead of. And so obviously that's what happens in Rebels. I won't spoil it there. That's what happened at the end of the Thrawn trilogy. Do you think that is ultimately true about Thrawn, that the only way to defeat him is to throw something at him that he can't anticipate?
Yeah. My only problem with it in regards to Rebels is that if we're to go with what we've seen in the books, he's met Anakin, so he's met Jedi before. So that's why I would say he would anticipate how, like, he just gets thwarted by them a little too easily in Rebels, but that's because that's what the story had to tell. But yeah, it definitely is, like in this case especially, this is his first time in Legends where he encounters Jedi and their power.
Yeah, and that's why this was so cool back in 2006. When I first read this, I didn't have 2 other Thrawn trilogies to read, in which case sometimes he's hanging out with Anakin. And in this, there are not just Skywalkers, for whatever that means, and what a goofy little play on words they've got there. In this, it was really novel to see young Thrawn hanging out with Obi-Wan and Anakin, hanging out with pre-clone Sabayoth. It was really, really fun, kind of a mashup of a book. However, let's compare this to some of these other Thrawn endings. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other Thrawn novels written since this. How does the ending of this big twist ending, compared to some of Zahn's other big finishes? It's one of the things that Zahn likes to do, is have a big twist ending, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. How does it compare? They all have twist endings.
Yeah.
They all have that moment where you're like,
right,
what?
Yeah.
So
Jacob, have you read Scoundrels?
I have not, no.
Okay, I don't want to spoil it for you.
There's a
twist ending at the end of Scoundrels. It's not a big space battle twist ending where there's one other chess piece on the board that's introduced that's able to win the battle, but it's more of a character centric twist ending that absolutely, I remember I was mowing my lawn, listening to the audiobook 10 years ago, listening to Scoundrels, and I was really enjoying it. It was like kind of a B-level book for me. And then I got to the ending. I just remember like turning off my lawnmower immediately and like realizing he had pulled the wool over my eyes or rug out from under me. Which one is it? I always mess this up.
Pull the
I think I
wool
messed
over
it
your
up
eyes.
last
Just
week.
go with that one.
He had totally baffled me with this ending. I did not see it coming, and since it's become one of my favorite Legends books. So I think, other than Scoundrels, this is my favorite big Thrawn twist ending. Maybe The Last Command. You got Lu'uk, kind of cool that they've cloned Luke's hand into making a. And
I prefer this one.
That's the solution.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think this one. I prefer this one to The Last Command.
Well, The Last Command, it's definitely kind of kitschy, right? It's kind of goofy. the way Mara is able to defeat, the last command of you must destroy Luke
Okay, well, I
Skywalker's
liked that aspect of it, Jared.
kill Luke Skywalker, but with 2 U's and a blue lightsaber. Yeah. It's goofy. This one stacks up pretty well. What do you think, Jacob? It's been a long time since you read this book,
It
but
has been a
do
very
you have
long time.
do you have a particular Zahn twist ending that you love?
I don't know if I have one in particular that I love the most. I think, like how you're saying with like his big twist endings, especially with his space battles, I've as of recently, especially with Greater Good, I've learned to just accept that I'm along for the ride and I'm not gonna be able to anticipate what that twist is. Like, I'm usually someone with like the plots of books or movies that tries to think ahead and figure out where this is going, but it's like, all right, well, I know he's gonna do something crazy at the end, and I'm not gonna expect it, so I might as well just enjoy the moment while I'm in it. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Look at
I
you.
think
So optimistic.
I think of the Thrawn books I can remember, I think maybe Chaos Rising has my favorite ending, but I don't know. I like after finishing Greater Good recently, I feel the need to go back and reread a ton of them. With what time I don't know, but eventually I'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I'll say this much. I won't spoil Greater Good's ending, but I will say it's got a twist ending and I liked it. So there's that. Have you finished it, Cheryl? You're
I did. I
nodding
finally finished
enthusiastically.
it. It
Yeah,
has
yeah.
a
I can
couple
see you're
twists,
containing
and I was
yourself.
like, yeah.
Oh man, is there a twist? If you know the twist, don't put it in the chat. Keep it to yourself. Let's give it that. What's our spoiler policy at Youtini? Is it 1 month before you can have no
3
spoiler
months
tags?
actually with books.
Okay, Psh, you guys need to hurry up. Jump into light speed with your reading. No, it's fine. It's fine. I actually had to just move a Legends Lookback Roundtable because I don't think I'm going to be able to read things as fast as I thought I would. I'll say this much about the Fiction Insider collection, the Insider Fiction collection. There's more text in here than I thought there would be. There's multiple columns on every page with very fine print. And so I had to build myself more time. We are going to do a review of it, but it'll be probably July at this point because we got a big announcement at the end of the show of something we're going to do next. Before we get there, this was, of course, Zahn's first foray into the prequel era. Talked about that a little bit. And I want to know, in your opinion, is Zahn a better prequel era writer or like an original trilogy Legends sequel era writer, like post Return of the Jedi Zahn or prequel era Zahn? Which do you prefer, Cheryl?
I mean, obviously, I think he's great at both, but I think since he's lived with the OT characters an era longer, that he writes that era really, really well. At least at the time that this book came out, anyway. Like, if I had to choose. Now, of course, with all his new works,
Yeah,
I think they're all pretty comparable, but I really just loved how, in my opinion, he absolutely nailed the characterizations of the OT characters.
Yep, that was my answer. So, way to go. You only get one answer this week because Cheryl took my. Yeah, I agree. He's one of the only characters one of the only writers for me who can do Leia very well. It's really hard to write Leia for most Star Wars writers, and a lot of times they're just like, yeah, she's a mom. End of story. And I'm like, no, there's so much more to her than that. She's the damsel who wasn't in distress. It's an incredibly pivotal character in fiction, in English. The fact that she is the princess who totally reinvents what a princess is in fantasy storytelling. Zahn's the only one who can do her well, especially like in Legends, especially back in the day.
He writes her so well-rounded, like all aspects, like not just the tough like political side, but also like the mother side or the wife side. But also I love how he writes how the other male characters view her, because that's
Definitely,
important too.
yeah.
So
Not I mean, you'll catch other diplomats sparring with her. You've got Han playing off of her, Luke playing off with her, different sides of the relationship with everyone. But I will say with this book in particular, I loved him writing Anakin and Obi-Wan. This was a particular joy for me. I could not believe when I reread how much I enjoyed just hanging out with Zahn's Obi-Wan and Anakin. Clearly, he enjoyed it. I think he had a lot of fun getting to write Obi-Wan and Anakin, don't you?
mm-hmm.
All the stuff with them is just delightful because, in my opinion, now this is my hot take on Thrawn. Meg and Freddie aren't here to keep me in line, so going off script a little bit here. All right, now I'm gonna be positive. I like the canon Thrawn books, but I love Legends Thrawn books. Okay, there's a difference. And here's the reason why. I think Thrawn is most interesting not because of him. He's a little bit too much like space Sherlock Holmes for me. I think he's most interesting because of the characters that surround him. I think his stories are most interesting depending on who you put him in conversation with and in conflict with. You agree, Jacob?
Yeah, I think Meg actually had a tweet about this maybe a week or two ago where she had a conversation with someone, or she saw a review on Goodreads or something like that that said about Greater Good that they didn't like it as much because there wasn't enough Thrawn. But yeah, I think it's like, all right, well, whatever. But yeah, the thing that makes Thrawn interesting is it's not even the fact that he's surrounded by all these different characters. It's how they view Thrawn and viewing Thrawn through their lens. So, you know, putting on my canon cap here for a second, like, you know, Eli Vanto, seeing how he sees Thrawn and seeing how Arlani sees Thrawn and all these different characters, and Thalia sees Thrawn, I think that's what makes it interesting because they all have their different interpretations of who that person is. It's like, obviously Thrawn's an interesting person, but he's so like, I always like to tell people he's basically like Star Wars Encyclopedia Brown, where he's just like, you know, you put in situation, he comes out with battle plan, and I think seeing how other people view that is what is interesting, not him and himself.
And Outbound Flight for me was so rewarding in that regard because you've got such a different mix of characters reacting to Thrawn and spending time with Thrawn. In particular, loved his relationship with Kardos in this. It's like they're kind of becoming friends, and then Kardos saves this villain who at this point is becoming more of a likable character. But before this book, he was just a villain. Of course, you've got him playing off some of Palpatine's cronies. You've got Doriana and his crew. You've got him playing off of Nemoidians and reacting to battle droids and droidicas. And then Obi-Wan and Anakin and young pre-clone Sabayoth. I just loved the way that Zahn wrote those prequel era characters. Now, your answer there, Jacob, reminded me of you said Meg found a person who said, well, it needed more Thrawn. It didn't have enough Thrawn. Well, if you want more Thrawn, may I recommend the 2016 covers, which I finally acquired, of the original Thrawn trilogy, which, may I remind you, our friends over at Club J did the math. They did the percentages. They crunched the numbers. This series of books, thanks to our buddy Aiden in the Discord for selling me these at a very reasonable price. So happy to finally get my own copies. They have 275% more Thrawn than the original covers of the Thrawn trilogy. You want more Thrawn? Here you go, more Thrawn. Well, we'll talk more about re-envisioned covers for some of these books as well. We're going to pitch what the new cover might look like for Outbound Flight before the episode is over. But first, let me ask this. Which era do you think Thrawn more naturally fits in to you? At this point, we've seen Thrawn in this prequel era with the Ascendancy trilogy, with Outbound Flight. We've seen Thrawn in the original trilogy era with Rebels. We've got Thrawn in the post-Return of the Jedi era with the Thrawn trilogy. There's not many characters that can cross over every era of Star Wars like Thrawn can. So in which era do you prefer Thrawn? It's a different question than how do you like Zahn's writing in which era. The question is, which era do you think Thrawn more naturally fits into you, Cheryl?
Well, I personally prefer him in the pre-Empire era, if anything, because I always love the story of him learning, and I also like it when he isn't aligned with the fascists. Like, I can more fully root for him and not feel like I shouldn't, you know?
Yeah, wow, that's a crazy thing to say. You heard it here first, folks. She likes it when he aligns with the fascists.
No, I said it's not what I said, Jared.
What'd you say?
I said I like it when he isn't aligned with the fascists, so that
I'll admit I was typing a
for
comment
him.
on YouTube. All right, it's
Yeah,
my fault.
geez.
The key difference there.
Apologies. I edit the episode, so I can make you say whatever I want. Jacob, do you have an opinion on this? Which era does Thrawn fit in best for you?
So here's the problem: is you invited me on the show. I have not read Outbound Flight in probably, oh boy,
But you've read it.
I have read it. It's probably been about 12 years. I have not read the original Legends Thrawn trilogy in my entire life. So
You can't even ask Jacob this question.
I just
yeah,
had like a bit of a
here,
spasm when he said
here,
that.
let me fix something real quick. We'll just do the rest of the show like this.
Perfect. I like it already.
I've been demoted to the in your ear only producer.
Jacob,
and
did
that's
you know
fine.
that there's comics? You can read the original Thrawn trilogy in comics. They've
do.
got comic adaptations. There's no excuse.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Once I finish the Marvel, the canon Marvel books, which actually is not that far out of the way for me right now, I will read all of the canon or the Legends Thrawn trilogy via comic books.
All right, let me know when you do it. I'll read them with
Right,
you because
it'll probably be sometime this summer, hopefully.
I love the comic adaptations. Cheryl, have you read the comic adaptations?
No.
They're great. They're absolutely great.
But are they as good as the books? Like what? Like you must be missing huge chunks of.
Yeah, you have to read both. Absolutely. And then you need to collect them in all the different covers available, the hardcovers and all three versions of the paperbacks. And you need to listen to the audiobook, which is also great with Mark Thompson. You need to get the Heir to the Empire annotated edition, which is available both as an audiobook and a hardcover. I'd recommend doing both. I mean, I really love them, in case you can't tell. But Cheryl, I'll send them to you if you don't have them yet. I've got them on Comixology. They're great. I love. What's better than reading about Nogri? Looking at Nogri. Look at their teeth and their. Oh man, it's great. It's excellent.
My favorite comic panel is like with the canon Thrawn, where it's like feral Thrawn with like his long hair.
Long
Oh
hair.
yeah, totally.
That one's like my favorite in the comic books. I'm like, yeah.
Tell us what you really think, Cheryl. I actually am trying to acquire all the different variant covers for the Thrawn miniseries. So if anybody out there has got some, hey, what's up? I got dollars. So they're digital dollars, but I think they still work. I don't know. It's all confusing. Economics and what's Bitcoin? Dogecoin? You guys understand that?
Oh no, don't get
Okay.
No.
Well, let me ask you an equally confusing question. There's a point in this story where you start to realize that Zahn is trying to incorporate this with the bigger picture of Star Wars publishing at the time, which in 2006, there's a big series being published called The New Jedi Order. Ever heard of it? Now, Cheryl and I had a bit of a debate behind the scenes concerning who exactly is Thrawn trying to ward off. Who has he had an encounter with? He and the Chiss have been able to repel, and then ultimately is the reason why Palpatine's lackeys leave Thrawn alive, and Sidious chooses to use Thrawn, and that is to repel an invasion by the quote-unquote far outsiders. Now,
Right.
I think that's the Yuuzhan Vong. Cheryl, do you agree? Do you disagree?
I just said, you were like, oh, because he says the Yuuzhan Vong. I'm like, no, he doesn't. He says far outsiders. That could be anyone.
So theoretically, it could be anyone. Who else could it be?
Yeah, but it's just like in
Chaos Thrawn.
Chaos Rising, Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos, right? They talk about like the great threat out there, right? And so it's kind of the same idea, I think. So I don't think it's any. He definitely could have been alluding to that. I would say you are safe in that assumption.
I think I came up with that assumption somewhere. I'm going to blame Timothy Zahn. I think in an interview that I've heard on a podcast, like a random audience question from Dragon Con 2009 or something that I listened to, over 10 years ago. I think it was probably in one of those where he's like, it was definitely the Yuuzhan Vong. I just wanted to keep it more mysterious than that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I apologize, Mr. Zahn. That was not a great impression. The honorable, the venerable Mr. Zahn, who I just absolutely did a terrible impression of. I'm so sorry, but we love your book. We're going to keep talking about it. I do wonder though, what if Thrawn hadn't gotten mixed up in Outbound Flight? What if he hadn't had this confrontation with Sabayoth, hadn't had the run-in with the Nemoidians and then of course is leveraged against Outbound Flight. What if Sabayoth's mission was successful? They go out, they start a new Jedi colony. He's the emperor of his new little unit that he's trying to develop. What if then Sabayoth is the one that has a run-in with the Vong? What do you think happens there, Cheryl?
So I have, what series is it? New
Jedi Order, yeah.
I think I maybe read the one with the moon thing.
Yeah.
And I was so pissed
Vector Prime.
off that I didn't read any of the other ones.
Written by Leominster native, Bobby Salvatore. He lives in the town where I live. Trying to find him, Mr. Salvatore, if you're listening. Hey, I'd like to talk to you.
So I don't remember enough about them to even come
No,
up
it's
with
fine.
anything.
They have no noses.
That's Jacob. I don't know.
They don't like organic tech. They only use organic technology. They don't like droids. They don't like mechanical technology. They want to take over the galaxy. They've got a big chip on their shoulders. They have staffs like in the Bible that can turn into snakes. Yeah, they do. They give people diseases, which really hasn't aged well in 2021. How do you think Sabayoth would deal with a massive army of invading aliens?
I don't know.
I'd like to think Sabayoth is the only egocentric Jedi who's powerful enough to scare the Yuuzhan Vong back into the unknown regions. That's my opinion. What do you think, Jacob? Have you read the New Jedi Order?
So, okay, the short answer, no. I know enough about the Vong, I think, to give a somewhat educated opinion. Fun fact, I also read all of Legacy of the Force without having read anything else post Return of the Jedi, so that was a very confusing book series for me.
Just like Corey, that's amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was like, who is this? What is Centerpoint Station? Anyways.
If you want more on that, we can.
It's like the meme of the guy walking into the room on fire with the pizza.
Yeah,
You're
that
like,
was
I don't
me.
know what's happening.
Except for in this, Jacob's in a room on fire with Star Wars books.
Yeah.
And every time a page catches fire, he blows it out.
Yeah, but I think I don't know if, I mean, from what I could remember, aren't the Vong like just very good against fighting against Jedi? So I don't.
Yeah, because the Jedi can't detect them in the Force.
Right.
They're invisible in the Force.
Sabayoth by himself with a small colony of children would be able to do that much against them.
Yeah, you're right.
So
actually,
if they get sent back to sent back to the core, I don't know if the current military might of the galaxy. I don't. Obviously there's a Jedi army at that point, which again not as effective. But I don't know if the clone army compares to the giant military industrial complex that was the Empire.
Right.
So I don't think that, I think it would be pretty bad times for, I mean, even in New Jedi Order is a very bad time for the galaxy. I think Clone Wars era galaxy would be in a much worse situation.
You're definitely right. My point is less that it has to do with the Force and more that Sabayoth is such a jerk that they would get so annoyed with him that they would go back into the unknown regions. Well, you know what series Sabayoth is not in? The sequel/prequel to this, with what our buddy Andrew Bell calls Star Wars' backwards storytelling magic, and that is Survivor's Quest. Now, Cheryl, you got a heads up tip to read Survivor's Quest first, which I didn't bother to tell you because I don't actually think it matters for this book. It matters for Survivor's Quest. I don't think it matters for Outbound Flight. Now, which one, after having read both, would you recommend people read first?
Yeah. And the reason why Mike and Joey were like, read Survivor's Quest first is because they knew that I had it. And that I hadn't read it yet. So they were like, well, read Survivor's Quest first. Like, trust us. Like, just, I know you got to get to Outbound Flight and reread that, but just if you can bang out Survivor's Quest first, do that because it'll be much more enjoyable. And it was, because it's kind of like a whodunit and a mystery that like Luke and Mara are solving. And if you read Outbound Flight first, and like all of that is gone. Like,
right. Yep. That's the one thing I remember is if you read Outbound Flight first, it spoils the ending of Survivor's Quest. However, reading Survivor's Quest doesn't contribute very much to your understanding of Outbound Flight. Is that true?
I mean, no, you don't have to, but I liked seeing the different, like how they played off I was like, oh, that,
Sure.
Sorry, I'm not being great with words.
I haven't
I'm
read it
just
in
making-
10 years, so I don't really know. So I have to go back to it. I do want to ask this though, which one do you like better? I think I prefer Outbound Flight.
Me too.
Survivor's Quest is in my opinion one of Zahn's weaker books, but
If you really like Luke and Mara and them working together, you'll really enjoy Survivor's Quest.
Yeah,
if
that's
you
true.
really, really want a lot of Thrawn, read Outbound Flight because
Yeah.
he's not in Survivor's Quest.
That's like saying this is one of the worst chocolate ice creams, as if there could be such a thing, right?
Yeah. I think Survivor's Quest was also our first bigger glimpse into Chiss society and family structure than any of the other Legends books that we had at that point.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually writing a collection, a piece for Youtini about all the Star Wars books you should read if you want that nitty-gritty Chiss stuff. And so they got to make sure I get Outbound Flight in there. Might have to reread it just so I can write an even better piece for the site. Coming your way this summer sometime. I don't know when. Meg's on vacation and she does the editing and scheduling for me. So we'll figure it out. Right now I'm writing a Bad Batch piece that's very, very close to being finished. I've been watching a lot of Clone Wars this week. My wife's like, "Why are you watching Clone Wars?" I'm like, "It's research. All right, this is for the site. It's not just to blow off, to waste time." But another good way to waste time, however, that connects to Clone Wars is the way that Obi-Wan and Anakin are portrayed in this book, how they tie in. Just absolutely love having them in the book. I wonder though, how essential are Obi-Wan and Anakin for this story, in your opinion? I kind of feel like they're shoehorned in to a certain extent just because Zahn wanted to write them. What do you think?
I think they were used to give us a gauge of sorts. Like Obi-Wan is known for his conflict negotiation and being a good mediator and advisor. So I kind of see Obi-Wan used as a parallel to Sabayoth's methods and ideology, especially in the beginning story of this book. I think Obi-Wan is also used as the lens through which to view Sabayoth in like the Jedi perspective.
Yeah, that was the one thing I was really thinking of too. You really get a good foil for Sabayoth with Obi-Wan's goodness.
Yeah.
He's a good guy at heart. He makes some mistakes along the way. He's a pathological liar, but he is, however, a good Jedi at heart. In contrast with Sabayoth, who he's throwing goodness out the window. He's like, I don't care about goodness. I care about.
He's like, I want to rule people. Yeah.
Power. Yeah.
And then with Anakin, I think it was just like we see him idolizing the wrong traits in Sabayoth, and that kind of like further enriches the story of those seeds sown in Anakin's fall, particularly with his impatience and his tendency to want like forced order to obtain quick desired results.
Oh.
And
you're right.
And since we know Anakin eventually falls, then again there's that parallel because we see Sabayoth fall to the dark from those same temptations of control.
You're doing that thing, Cheryl, where you blow my mind. I didn't see it coming. Yeah, this always happens, whether you're on our show or you're on Conjure Book Club or something. You say one thing and I'm like, do we read the same book? No, you're right. I didn't see that. Anakin does have that parallel to Sabayoth. Yeah. Anakin murders the younglings. Sabayoth kidnaps the younglings. I mean,
yeah. But it's about control, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, so you got the line in Attack of the Clones. You're like, someone should make everyone follow the rules, basically. So a little extension of that. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the authors in the prequel era will, you have everyone likes to try and plant the seeds for Anakin. I feel like that's almost a guarantee for any prequel era novel. And then if the Emperor's involved or the Chancellor's involved too, you also have to have a few lines of him being like, "Ooh, I am very interested in having this man as my apprentice in like 10 years." Like I think that's more or less a given. And
that's one of the really fun details in this book is there's a point where Palpatine gets really freaked out that Obi-Wan and Anakin are going on this mission because they're not supposed to be. And Palpatine's got a big plan to scuttle the mission and blow them up out in space. And so then he finds out Obi-Wan and Anakin are involved, and he's like, I've got plans for them, messing everything up. And it's excellent that Palpatine wants to destroy Outbound Flight, but he wants to save Anakin. Anakin and Obi-Wan want to see Outbound Flight succeed, but they don't want Sabayoth to succeed. Then Thrawn doesn't want Outbound Flight to succeed, but he also doesn't really care about the Nemoidians. It's all these pieces of people kind of like passive aggressively hating each other. It's excellent. It's really well done. He does great with those political relationships, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's like the Chancellor's playing chess and someone just walks up to his board and takes a piece and then just hucks it into the next galaxy, and then he has to go run and chase and go find it.
Yeah,
Wait, no, I'm not done. I need that.
I just totally pictured Palpatine like picking up his robe and like running.
Yeah, he keeps replacement chess pieces and all those little statues where he keeps his lightsabers.
Mm.
He also, of course, is ultimately going to use Thrawn in his empire, which is interesting that eventually we get there in the canon Thrawn trilogy. We're, of course, right in the middle of the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy, which is even prior to that, leading up to him joining the Empire. I'm still interested in how that's going to connect to the Empire, how Thrawn ends up deciding he needs to join. That's going to happen, of course, in the third book, which is called something.
Lesser Evil.
Lesser Evil.
Lesser Evil. Look at you guys. Great. However, we just had Greater Good. I've read it. Cheryl's read it. You've read it, Jacob?
Yes.
All right, here we go. So one of the fun things that, of course, we celebrated the fact you guys talked about this in Contra Book Club. Cheryl messaged me as she realized on page 13 that this book connects to Greater Good, that we get some references to the Vigari. How does this connect to Greater Good?
Yeah, I think this book, like Outbound Flight, was our first bigger glimpse into the Chiss ascendancy and their political structure and culture a bit. So it kind of like parallels that way.
Yeah.
Certainly the new ones are more fleshed out Chiss characters, like way more than this one is. But Outbound Flight was our first time seeing Thrawn among his own people.
Oh, that's a
and
good point.
having
Yeah.
those origin stories and seeing what is leading up to his time coming to the Empire's service. But yeah, I think that's the biggest parallel. Is it's the first time that we see Thrawn with other Chiss.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that. I would want to ask two different questions that are connected here. If you enjoyed Chaos Rising and Greater Good, would you recommend Outbound Flight?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, on that. Then the flip side is, if you enjoyed Outbound Flight, would you recommend the Ascendancy books?
My first one would be to suggest Thrawn.
Yeah.
The book that's just called Thrawn.
The
Yes.
2017 Thrawn. Yeah.
You have to do so much disambiguation with Thrawn.
Like we mentioned it last week, but that little story at the end of Outbound Flight called Missed Encounter
Yeah.
is like basically verbatim, like
Yep.
the beginning of the Thrawn.
Yeah, I actually want to go back and reread both the beginning of Thrawn and Missed Encounter. Maybe I'll do that on my road trip this weekend. That'd be fun to connect here. It's the paperback is the short story is in the paperback of Outbound Flight, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's in the
Okay.
back of it.
I think I've got a lot of the other short stories in all kinds of different digital folders on my iPad because, you never know when you're going to be sitting in a doctor's office and you're just stuck there for 3 hours and you need a Star Wars short story. And there's nothing scarier to me than being stuck waiting somewhere without a Star Wars story to consume. However, one other question before we round out the show tonight, and that is, with all my hopes and dreams of different editions for Outbound Flight, of course, if you have the paperback, it's got the short story of Missed Encounter. We're hopefully going to see another paperback of Outbound Flight. Cheryl, what do you think the chances are that Outbound Flight is selected as one of the essential Legends collections? These new Legends reprints that are going to happen in the trade paperback size were just announced, last month?
Have they said how many there are going to be?
No,
are they
there's
capping
indefinite
it?
number.
Well, so they said there's going to be another wave. I think it was in the summer. There's another wave of books, and then there's not going to be one in the winter just because of like publishing cycles, and then there's potentially more waves next year depending on I think what sales are.
Yeah. So in my mind, anything that could be counted as an essential Legends book could theoretically end up in a reprint. Is this an essential Legends book for you?
For me personally, obviously.
Okay, I think so too. I think
Thrawn's
it's top tier.
Yes.
I think it's top tier. So, what do you think the chances are this is selected? I'm gonna say like they're fairly high. I'm gonna say if I was gonna take the over or under, I'd take the one that I can never get the betting. I don't bet. I'm not a gambler. I'd like to think that this will happen. What do you think?
I hope so. I definitely hope so. I can't see why not.
Yeah, I think it just depends
Jacob?
on how many of these books we get. Because I definitely don't think it's in the next wave. I think there are too many other important books that are gonna come first. It's how many waves are we gonna get before, is interest gonna run out before they hit Outbound Flight? Hopefully no. Like I hope they get to it, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
Did they do Heir to the Empire, right?
Heir to the Empire.
And that whole trilogy.
The other two yet.
The whole trilogy is slated to come out this year. So they are.
Okay,
they didn't make a big formal announcement, but there has, however, been leaks through publishing catalogs that they are slated for later this fall.
Yeah, so I would think that one's obviously in the first round. I don't think Outbound. If they are going to do Outbound Flight, I don't think it's going to be in the first round. But I hope that it is in subsequent.
So I'll make the prediction this time next year, we're going to have us another copy of Outbound Flight. And here's why. These tie in so well to all the Thrawn fervor that's happening right now. You think Del Rey's not going to stick Thrawn on another cover of a book? Really?
I mean, I keep buying their, what was that one? What is it called? Out of print ones. So.
That's right. Give me a leather-bound Outbound Flight, please. I'll pay $150 for it.
Yeah, it's like Lesser Evil comes out in the fall of this year, so people are gonna be needing their Thrawn fix next spring. So
that's right. Maybe. Hey, here we go. All right, we've foreseen it. It's happening. Now, as a true art connoisseur, Thrawn would really want to have some excellent artwork on the cover of a book featuring him. So, what do you think a re-envisioned cover for Outbound Flight would look like? In case you don't have it here, Jacob, you might have it pulled up. The cover for Outbound Flight is a spaceship. Right, it is. There we go. It's Outbound Flight, as I like to consider it, a bunch of dreadnoughts duct taped to a storage core. There it is.
And I heard a lot of people passed over this book because they found the cover not interesting.
The cover looks like a sci-fi novel, but it doesn't necessarily look like a Star Wars book, other than the massive Star Wars logo on the front. I like the cover because it fits into the larger world of sci-fi. It looks like it could be an Andy Weir novel, but or a James S.A. Corey book. But I feel like we got to put Thrawn on the cover this time. What is the cover of Outbound Flight if you're designing it?
Just Thrawn.
It's just big blue face, red eyes. Star Wars.
So
front and center with hearts all around his face.
So you may remember I did some mock-ups for you guys when this initiative first came out, and I didn't have a whole lot to contribute to the conversation during this, so I might have done it in my spare time.
Oh, that's good.
On the fly. I definitely did. I mean, it's obviously just the cover, and then Thrawn is actually on the back of the paperback.
Yeah, he is,
and it looks great. Like I really like the art for him there.
This is the studliest Thrawn there's ever been.
Threw him in the corner.
I love it. Oh my goodness!
I mean, again, with like you were saying with the new Heir to the Empire book, it has 275% more Thrawn. So I figured we need a significant increase in Thrawn on this cover as well.
Excellent. I love it.
It excels in the increase in Thrawn for sure. If he was critiquing it, he would say, perhaps there could be more of me. All right, I tried. Eric's is better. I am going to say I would like to see Thrawn in the middle, Obi-Wan and Anakin on one side of him with their arms crossed looking the other way, and then shirtless Sabayoth is on the other side with his arms crossed looking cross at Obi-Wan and Anakin. And then over all of their shoulders are naked Palps's eyes and that wicked grin that he does. Right. I mean, you'll only see his face. You won't know that he's naked, but we know he's naked. That's my pitch. So there's no spaceship. There's just a lot of characters, way too many characters, like the Force Awakens poster. That's kind of how I'm picturing it.
Nice.
But Jacob's was great. If you guys, our listeners, have an idea on what you would like the cover for this to be, please let us know. Throw it up in the YouTube comments, which I will definitely check and not forget about. And you can also put those in the Legends Lookback Discord channel, or you can, of course, give us a comment on Twitter, because now I've got the login. So look out, world. Look out, world. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed this. Jacob, we've got something fun coming down the pipe with Legends Look Back and the Cosmic Force. You want to tell people about that?
Yeah, so this is a great idea from Jared. We are going to do a bit of a crossover event next month. So there's a great novel by the names of Shadows of the Empire and Legends. And there's also a graphic novel version of Shadows of the Empire and a video game and a soundtrack. So between us, Legends Look Back, and Game Night, we don't have a soundtrack show, but if we did, the group of us will be doing a Shadows of the Empire, I guess, comic book crossover for the month of June. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah, we're going to do an appearance on the Living Force to talk about all the big crossover events that have been in Star Wars. So like the big multimedia publishing programs. We're going to talk about whenever there's a big push around a certain topic. They just did one recently for Galaxy's Edge, for example. They're doing one, of course, really hasn't been one for Mandalorian, which is interesting. So we're going to talk about some of this. We've, of course, got Star Wars Archives getting in on the action. They are going to talk about all of the periphery with Shadows of the Empire, the action figures, the role-playing game, the soundtrack. And so Trevor's got some crazy stuff, short stories lined up for that. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be our next roundtable. If you're looking for your next Legends book after you've read Outbound Flight and Chaos Rising Part 2, what's it called? Greater Good. Now you can pick up Shadows of the Empire. I'm going to start mine within the next few days. How about you, Cheryl? You going to read it? You going to jump in? Even if you're not, just say yes.
Yes.
What? You don't want the story of Lizard Shizor using his pheromones to convince Leia to do whatever she wants?
I may have read this years and years and years and years ago, but I can't remember enough of it to know if I have or not.
It's a big deal in the Legends world.
Vaguely familiar.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for sure. I've heard a mismatch of opinions on this book, so I'm looking forward to forming my own. Well, that does it for this week. Thanks for joining us on Legends Look Back. Thanks to our incredible patrons for your support. We love making the show, and we are glad you are here along for the ride. Special thank you to the one and only Cheryl Bell, to Patrick Ortiz and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, to Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Sally and Chris Eilerson, and of course, Freddie C. as well on our Alliance High Command for their amazing support. Send our buddy Freddie some good vibes, who's got some family emergency on his hand tonight and can't make it. So thoughts and prayers with our buddy Freddie. Looking forward to having him back next week. However, guys, I've loved having you here for the show. This has been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed our time together. If you, of course, want your thoughts right on the show, you can email us at legendslookback@youtini.com. Send us a message in the Legends Lookback Discord channel. Leave a comment on this episode on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter at Legends Lookback. I'm at Jared Q. Mays. Jacob is what?
At Jacob Bausch.
And is that Bausch like the bounty hunter?
It is Bausch like the bounty hunter.
Perfect. And Cheryl?
Cheryl K. Bell.
Excellent. If you're looking to buy some of these books and want to help support the show, you can look up a book on Youtini. Click the Amazon link in the profile, and you can get a copy yeeted to your doorstep in no time. Of course, if you've read a book and want to leave us a review, we would love to know what you think. And remember, of course, no matter what you think, please try to keep the Youtini fan code and be a force for positivity in the fandom. Until next time, may the force